Okay. Well, it seems like Cub Patton has an injury of some sort and is not available right now for just judging by the comments, I suppose. So
The omission, basically, I guess you could probably read into the omission of Cub Patton in any kicking questions that were asked, right? Like he never came up.
yeah.
And
Well,
then
also DY, if I could like almost directly quote Chris Kleiman on this here channel and podcast when you asked him about like, are you happy with where the kicking game is? He said, "Oh, you never are." And I was like, "I is that true? You never
I
are."
just felt like John dying inside as
Wait,
that answer was ongoing.
he did mention Cub Patton's name with you guys on the show. He just said that he said that he did some really nice things in the spring, but then missed time and has missed time. So, but then the rest of the conversation, and then at the podium and other times, I don't think, based off what you guys have heard and the talk around there, I don't know if the true freshman kicker, for folks who don't know Cub Patton, true freshman kicker who was
Scholarship.
thought to potentially be on scholarship, thought to be potentially relied upon to be the starting kicker for this next season with Chris Tennant moving on, is might be hurt. We don't know the details.
Yeah, he's from Lubbock. I think whatever is going on with him, I think that drove them to adding the junior college kicker recently, Luis Rodriguez.
Yeah, I think when you connect the dots there, that happened like a week, 2 weeks before Big 12 media days, and then you start hearing that buzz that Cub Patton may be dinged up, and so that is concerning. I mean, Chris Tennant was their most reliable guy as far as the special teams last year. Like he was the one thing, if they could get the snap down.
I was going to say, and
count
they still struggled because both long snappers, but by game 7 or 8, got the yips, which everyone's like, well, we have bad long snappers. We might, I don't know. Like that's a different conversation. What I will say is like those long snappers had no problems like the first half of the year. So I really do think it was the yips that got them, and then their confidence being completely shot.
I'm looking at Tennant's numbers last year, 17 of 21. He was 6 of 7 from 40 to 49, 1 of 2 from 50 plus. I think we know what that one was. So pretty good year. Pretty good year for Chris Tennant.
And I would say, and maybe Cole or you can correct me if I'm wrong, but some of those misses can probably be attributed to the long snapping, because I know he actually did attempt a few that were kind of went haywire due to the snap not being on time or just being inaccurate or incompetent.
Yeah.
I think that absolutely played a part.
Yeah, well, yeah. Look, that'll be a concern. The Big 12.
And the punter wasn't that good that last year. Like Simon McLaren has to be better.
You just figure in the Big 12 there's going to be a lot of close games. There were a ton of close games across the league last year. The margin of error is very thin. Like, for instance, a team like Utah, much as you can attribute a lot of their problems to the quarterback position, they were 1-5 in one score games. So they were still pretty close a lot of the time. If you're going to be playing a lot of games like that, obviously having a kicking situation that is up in the air would be very concerning. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, Nate Katzer, we'll see. I don't know what Nate Katzer's track record is like specifically at developing kickers, from his time in the NFL. Last year, Chris Tennant was already, I think, in pretty good shape by the time Katzer. Has Katzer been there 2 years? Let me make sure I give him full credit. Has it just been one? It's just one, right? So it felt like Chris Tennant had kind of turned his career around by that point already. Maybe that's not totally fair. He had a very good season last year. I feel very uneasy about what the kicking situation is going to be.
It's fair. I think the concerns there are valid. It is interesting. Arizona State did win the Big 12 last year, and they had a terrible kicking situation.
They're ranked 120th in special teams.
That's a great point, DY. Thank you for making me feel better. They were like literally they wanted to take like a walk-on tryout in the middle of the year. They might have actually done that. Did they follow through on that? I remember Kenny Dillingham talking about it at one point.
Yeah. I don't know if they ever did it, but
yeah. I mean, they're in Bill Connolly's projections. They're 120th in the country in special teams for the 2025 season. So yeah, K-State is actually 26, guys, I believe, which feels too high. I don't know if they're getting credit based off historical projections. K-State 26 in special teams. Arizona State actually number 136. And
last year the special teams was bad enough that it contributed to the very, very bad starting field position average as well. When your kicking coverage is not exactly great, you're kicking out of bounds, you're snapping, just a litany of mistakes in that phase. It just has to be better. And to John's point about maybe perhaps being in a lot of close games this year, which seems like it's just kind of happens every year anymore where Kansas State is situated and positioned. But Bill, I think you guys know this, but Bill Connolly, I think, had the 5 most important games of the Big 12 this year, and Kansas State's in 4 of them.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, and I mean, think back to last year. I mentioned, like, hey, we all know what that 50-plus yard kick was for Chris Tennant, but I mean, they're potentially losing the Kansas game, right? Without Chris Tennant coming through with a huge field goal there. So I mean, that's evidence enough. You got to go play that game in Lawrence this year. Now, Kansas may not have as talented of a team this year as they did last year. We'll see. But that's just an example of the type of thing, margin for error can make a massive difference. And how much different does last year feel if Chris Tennant misses that kick? Right? You're sitting here at 8-4, still won the bowl game 9-4, and you're kind of like, all right, disappointing, but like it, you still hit that 9-win thing. Man, if you're 7-5 and then you lost at home to Kansas to end the streak, I mean, it makes a major difference in how you view last season.
Massive. It also would have made a major difference is if they didn't completely collapse against Houston, because we can dive into this for Big 12 Media Day, like takeaways, but talking to the players and even Chris Kleiman, it sounded like they believe that Houston game, they almost lost that game more than once. Like it contributed to the other losses on the schedule.
I believe one of the players say 3 times. I feel like Avery said
maybe, yeah.
He felt like it turned into like 3 losses.
He even admitted like he had a hard time getting over that loss. So
yeah, that was.
So did I.
Yeah, I mean, as you reflect back on the season, I mean, I guess Cole, to me that was by far like the one that was made you the most angry. Definitely was the one that made you.
And I almost agree with him before you answer, Cole. Well, one, because of the way you lost that Houston game. You could have won if you just decided not to throw the ball the rest of the game. But 2, like I do think if you just find a way to beat Houston, I do think some of those losses are probably wins later in the year.
Yeah, I mean, remember when we had Matt Wells on, John? Like he brought up Houston on his own accord about how that game still eats away at them as a coaching staff and how mad they are. So it is clear in that locker room that loss had a significant impact on the season. I mean, K-State went down to Houston. They were 7-1. They win that game like they should have. They were up 2 scores. You're 8-1 coming at home to play an Arizona State team, which we thought was a very winnable game and still was a winnable game, but Arizona State clearly was better than even at that point of the year than I'd probably given them credit for coming into that. But yeah, who knows how that game, if there's just a different mindset. We can't get in the heads of the team, but it just felt like they came out. Arizona State was really good, obviously, but it felt like K-State came out a little flat.
You might still lose that game, but I think you win perhaps some of the others.
Yeah, because you went from controlling your destiny on the season and having the chance at the Big 12 championship to then knowing you needed help the rest of the way in the final 3 games of the season after you lost to Houston. And the way that they lost it was infuriating. And you'd mentioned anger, John. I mean, we don't need to go back and circle the wagons on what happened in that game, but I'm just incredibly frustrated with some of the egregious decision-making that happened in that game. And then you had the snapping error. You had multiple chances to ice the game away. It just a litany of mistakes, the interceptions, obviously at the end, but you should have never been throwing anyways.
That's what I said. You're up 2 scores in a driving rain, and Avery throws the ball late in the 3rd quarter. I think you're up 2 scores, and Avery throws that interception in his own side of the field.
Yeah, they were backed up inside their 15-yard line, and I think it was like 12 minutes actually left in the 4th quarter, up 19-10.
Houston's not driving the ball at all. They can't move the ball at all, but they just pop off that one long run. It's a touchdown.
Yeah.